really glad to be here with my friend Sean Rose, District 1 City Councilor in Worcester, President and CEO of Thrive, and a big thinker in the city of Worcester, I think. Who's a very proactive councilor. I was hoping we could talk a little bit about the way this pandemic has been, both exacerbating some of the underlying problems or challenges that folks in our community face, but also how it's been highlighting the way Worcester and really all the communities in Central Mass are able to come together in crisis time to support each other.
Absolutely. So first off, thanks for having me. It's always a pleasure to chat with you. I feel like every time we're done talking, I end up with more ideas and more things to add to my to-do list. So I appreciate you having me. I think that this pandemic has put people in a place of stress and has created obvious adversity. There are people who have stepped up throughout this pandemic, and there are people who stepped out amidst this pandemic. And the city of Worcester has absolutely stepped up. We have the school department has given almost 750,000 meals up to this point. Teachers are making touch points. We have our senior center is making touch points daily. It's been a real coordinated effort between the city council, the school committee, and our public health officials, folks at UMass. We in some cases have been looked at for the blueprint of how to operate during this pandemic from other towns and cities like us. We were one of the first cities to start virtual city council meetings. It was important that in daily briefings, it was really important that we showed our leadership and calmness and really shared with people our plans. In any city our size, there are going to be pockets of issues, access to technology, second language folks, being able to connect to people who can speak their language, frankly. There are, people who are in the lower socioeconomic classes who have their own struggles and their own fights, individuals who are home who are dealing with children or adults with disabilities that they're having to take care of. The Worcester Together Fund, mutual aid Worcester that popped up like out of nowhere with just incredible energy. The collaboration between the Greater Worcester Community Foundation with the United Way and the city, it's just all been really, really tremendous. I mean, we're still doing powwow art.
Right.
And to raise the spirits of folks. So it's been a real concerted effort, and I'm proud to have been a part of it.
Yeah, and in the second largest city in New England, like the logistics of making some of these things happen are really challenging, like you said. And city council was doing online meetings almost right away, and the other boards and commissions too. And it's a real heavy lift to be getting meals out to kids in such a large school district where we have so many kids who take advantage of free and reduced lunch.
And think of all the work that we've done for our homeless population, and creating, the Worcester Technical High School, opening it up there and North and so on, and trying to alleviate what could potentially be surges in our hospitals by nature of taking care of people in these other places. The Comfort Inn just opened up with the American Red Cross in the state. And so I think that we've had a real proactive approach to this. I think the city manager and the mayor have been incredible. Dr. Maddie Castile and Dr. Hirsch have been incredible, but there's a lot of things that are happening in the forefront and behind the scenes to help us rebound from this thing.
Do you think this is going to create a paradigm shift when we're on the other end? In other words, that we're looking at our community a little differently, or maybe we're realizing new approaches or potentially more effective ways to be helping the community?
I think that this is going to create a paradigm shift in a lot of the things that we do. Just even the virtual component that has just risen to the surface. Have you ever heard of Zoom before? Now we're all Zoom experts, right?
We are.
So I think virtually in technology, but I think that we're learning a lot about the racial disparity as it relates to health. health in particular, is that we have lower socioeconomic classes we're seeing be more at risk to the virus. And Councilor King and myself and others are seeking information. We just had an agreement through the manager with UMass for them to share with us some of their research as it relates to this. We'll get back to our the Community Health Improvement Plan. My apologies for all these acronyms. But the idea is that we're going to figure out how to, Sarai Rivera, Councilor Rivera, the chair of public health, we're going to figure out a way to attack this thing and attack it with vigor based on data and not based on emotion.
Another thing that concerns me, and the Massachusetts Commission on the Status of Women put out a report recently about how this is affecting women in myriad ways. And one was domestic violence, and the fact that, this situation creates potentially, volatile home situations. If someone's in a bad situation to begin with, there's barriers to finding safe housing.
My concern is the trauma implications of this pandemic. You've seen crime decrease by about 60% in the city of Worcester, but we've seen an increase in domestic violence. We've seen an increase in wellness checks. We've seen an increase in the concern for these folks who have these dormant clinical mental health issues that they've been working with or on for a period of time that are now coming to the surface because of the stress and the adversity put on people. And so I put out an order recently about getting all of the hotlines up on on the city website. Not everyone has technology, but everyone has access to a phone. And so 1-800 numbers around domestic abuse, mental health, suicide prevention, and so on. So I think that at some point you're going to see from me or the mayor something really connected to bringing our trauma experts, who are many in the city of Worcester, Lori Ross and so on. I can go on and on and on. It's both of our backgrounds, but to come together and have a think tank about how we're going to heal people as a result of the PTSD they had as part of the stress and adversity that comes, unfortunately, with this pandemic.
And I'll throw out a plug for calling 211 if you know of a child who is at risk, whether it's a child you're concerned about their mental health or a child that you're concerned about potential abuse and trauma issues.
There's another underlying piece to this, Paul, that I don't know that people are talking enough about because it's 100 miles an hour. But think about the PTSD from our UMass is our number one employer in the whole entire city. The city of Worcester is number 2. Okay. What about all the PTSD and trauma that these folks are seeing day in and day out in this hospital setting? Think about all the trauma that our city employees are facing and seeing. Think about my agency, Thrive, and the other nonprofits in the city of Worcester who are at risk, who are dealing with populations. There are people dying in these settings of this virus. And there's so much PTSD and trauma connected to it. I think it's easy for us to compartmentalize it, almost like it isn't real. And you hear the numbers, 900 people died here, or, the state is at this number. And in our brains, we can't really, settle with that reality. And so we just kind of push it away. But that's someone's brother, sister, loved one, nephew, grandmother, grandfather, you name it. And so it is really sad, and there are people who don't have the ability to compartmentalize it because their jobs don't allow them to do that.
I like the way you framed that, and I know that on that note, you've been trying to ensure that we look at all the folks who are on the proverbial front lines on this, and especially the group home and residential care workers in the city, who we know are in the hot points really of what's going on.
The thing that is really frustrating to me as someone who used to be a direct care worker is that when Governor Baker put out the definition of what an essential worker is, and when he did it, he kept it pretty vague. And so what the public views or thinks about an essential worker is your hospital healthcare workers, our nurses, our doctors, fire, police, emergency safety. And then recently, in recent weeks, nursing home folks kind of became online as, people, the public was concerned about. But there are a whole bunch of residential and group home workers in the city of Worcester, Metro Boston, my agency, who are assuming a lot of the same risk as these folks. A number of asymptomatic and symptomatic COVID clients, different populations, mental health, developmental disabilities, intellectual disabilities, all of these vulnerable populations that never close. They're 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. And these people, in some cases, are having to isolate in the homes for 14 days with the clients that they serve with a smile on their face. And so I've been doing my part to try to raise awareness of their heroic actions. I'm calling them the unsung heroes in this, because similar to how you compartmentalize, some of the tragedy that's occurring, some of these folks that are being taken care of, people are doing such a good job, they're kind of invisible to you, right?
Yeah.
And so I'm trying to make them not be invisible any longer, make them visible, and have them get the same appreciation as everyone else. I want them getting free meals. I want Fenway Red Sox to paint a picture in their center field about them. I want them in commercials. They're assuming the same risk, and they're doing it with compassion and a smile on their face because they care and they love the people that they're working for and with. And I think we should be more of a champions for their efforts.
Yeah, thank you for doing that, Sean. And it's one of the ways that you're really a champion for the city and, highlighting the good things that go on here. So I'm grateful for that. Thanks for being on here, Sean. These were serious issues, but we're really glad that folks like you are tackling them, and really all the folks in the community who we mentioned who are coming together to get us through this. So thanks, Sean, for being here. And I look forward to talking again soon and seeing what you're up to on council.
I appreciate it. You take care now. We'll talk soon.
Thanks, Sean.